Welcome to the Language of series. My name is Amy Lancy. I am a communication consultant and I love helping business owners find the right words to describe what they do. And the reason why I have this series, the Language of series, is because I know that languages don't exist just by country or nationality, but by industry and community and expertise. And so I have this series to talk about different experts from different walks of life, and that way they can tell me what is their language of expertise, and we can dive deeper into that so that way all of us can better understand each other. So I have my friend Wil Carlos, who's a very gifted man, and I'm going to let him introduce himself because I don't want to botch it up. Because it's such a special gift, and I don't want to. I want to honor it and allow him uh, to give a probably more accurate description of it.
Yeah, well, and thanks for having me. I love the idea and the theme of the show. The language is very important to me. So I love that you're tackling this in a podcast format. And yeah, what I do is a little bit different. So I am a belief clearing expert. I'm an intuitive energy worker, energy healer. And I work with other healers, coaches, and sometimes artists who are dealing with procrastination or burnout, or they're feeling jaded about their marketing. So often that can happen when they want to rise to the next level. They want to write a book, they want to double their fees, they want to sign more clients, or they want to do public speaking, but they feel jaded about all the normal ways to do that. And they don't want to push themselves. They don't want to be inauthentic. They want to be fully themselves, but they feel like they have to be someone else because
Yeah.
of what they've been told or taught from others in the industry. So I help them to just come back to themselves and drop all the other. Oh, I forgot to ask beforehand. Can we swear on this podcast? Is it
Yeah,
a
that's
swear?
fine. That's
Okay.
fine. Go ahead.
So I help them drop all the other bullshit by seeing and recognizing where they themselves full of shit. So that's kind of the process.
Yes, yes. And I totally welcome you to swear because I feel like that word bullshit just really emphasizes the emotions behind what people are feeling, and it gives a more accurate description. And I love that you said you're a belief clearing expert. And so, um, when it comes to beliefs, do you mean just beliefs in general, or do you mean like the what people call limiting beliefs?
Yeah, so I do mean limiting beliefs, but I also mean all beliefs because even the positive ones can cause trouble. So for example,
Mm,
if a parent has a belief that their child is amazing,
mhm.
then they're blind to all the times when their child is not amazing and needs
Ah,
possibly correction or a conversation or something else. So even the ones that we would consider empowering beliefs, if
mhm.
we're blind about it, if we're myopic about it, then those can get in the way as well.
Okay. I love that. I love that you point out that positive beliefs can have a negative impact too. And so, what I'm kind of getting from you is that what you do is you get people to become more self-aware, and also to just clear those beliefs in general. Get over those.
Yeah. And if we want to give a specific example, because I find that really helpful, especially with this kind of nebulous stuff for those who haven't heard of this kind of work before.
Mhm.
Imagine a coach, an executive coach. Actually, I'll talk about one of my clients, but without any names or specific details. So this coach really they've got a book that they published, and they want it to go bigger. They want to do more promotion for that book, but they're feeling held back and feeling stuck about it. They're procrastinating a little bit, but not really, because this person's very successful. They're an executive level coach, a lot
Mhm.
of big clients. So they've got lots of work to do, but the book is not doing as well as they might like.
Mhm.
So they come to me to find out, why the heck am I stalling? Why am I feeling kind of burnt out and overwhelmed? Why am I not doing more for this book? And I can help them see, with my intuitive gifts and spiritual gifts, I can help them see what are the beliefs, or maybe what are the stories that they're living in, that has it be, publishing a book is hard, or
Mhm.
self promotion is smarmy and I don't want to do it, or I don't want to be a salesperson. I'm not a salesy kind of person, and promoting on social media feels salesy. So I help them to see those specific things and to clear them with specific processes. So that's what I mean by clearing beliefs or clearing limiting beliefs. That gives a bit more of a concrete example.
Yes. And I love how, from what you just explained, that not only do you see the energy that's going on, but you hear the words that they're saying, and so it's a double whammy of, yep, no, this person is definitely needs a belief clearing or needs to work on their beliefs. So I love that, because I've met quite a few healers and they rely heavily on the energetic part, which is pretty much core. But from what I'm hearing from you is that you listen for the energy, you feel the energy, you see the energy, and also you hear the words that they're speaking, and you're matching them together, uh,
Mm,
just to better understand like where they're really at. So I think that's a really great balance from
mm.
what I know I've always noticed that about you. Like, you have a really great balance in terms of, how you relate to people and what you hear from people, as well as how you communicate what you do to help them. So, and I think that you do that especially well when you're talking about the imposter complex, which you talk about a lot, like a
Mm.
lot. And so I just, for this, which is great because it's your thing and that's your expertise. So I want you to, if that's okay with you, I would love for you to define what is the imposter complex, and if there are any other names it may go by, and what are those names?
Yeah. So the imposter complex is a term that started back in well, got popularized in this around sometime in the 70s, when they came out with a study that said mostly women suffer from this affliction, which is no longer totally accurate. But it started long before then, and originally, and still in textbooks, I believe, psychology textbooks, it's called imposter phenomenon. So
Hmm.
they don't have it nailed down as a term yet. Most people call it imposter syndrome, which, as far as I can tell, is inaccurate. It's not the best. And on a podcast about language, I feel it's
Mhm.
important to talk about this, because imposter syndrome, that would make it a medical condition, something that you need a psychologist for, or even a psychiatrist. It might require medication. A syndrome is a very serious thing, whereas a
Mhm.
complex is a mental construct. It's a set of beliefs and
Mhm.
stories. It's a pattern of habits. It's not necessarily so serious. So even as we redefine imposter syndrome as imposter complex, half the battle is done, because now it's out of the realm of deep medical intervention and into the realm of more like life coaching, or the kind of work that I do with belief clearing, or even energy work, or even something like Reiki or other wonderful energy modalities. Now it's more manageable already. So the name, I feel, is very important.
I love that. I didn't know we were going to go that direction, but I love that distinction, because already by using a more correct term, or a more accurate term, I won't say correct because there's no right or wrong, but a more accurate term, you're already removing a lot of the crap.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
I love that. And you didn't even do anything yet. Using the You're just changing the language of it, which I think that's so cool. I also know that, I mean, so when I think about books like The War of Art, and I think you've read that book by Stephen
I love
Pressfield.
that book. Yeah.
It's an amazing book. If you've not read The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield, go buy that. It's on Amazon. And by the way, I'm not sponsored by them, but I just want to say that. Um, in that book, he talks about resistance a lot. Like how, when you are a creative or an artist, someone, or just someone that's creating something, even if you don't resonate with creative or artists, if you're creating something, and this is something that's super important to you, and you're hitting roadblocks, and or writer's block, how they may say, that's what he calls resistance. When you are, something within you that's slowing you down or causing you to procrastinate, and keeping you from getting it done, is resistance. And he even says that, the greater resistance you experience, the more important the work is. So Will, would you say that resistance could possibly be a word for the imposter complex?
Yeah, I think the way in the way that he defines it or describes it, I would say they're almost the exact same thing.
Mhm.
Because when he talks about it, and it's been a while since I read that book, but when he talks about it, it's more in the realm of, oh, you have this goal, you want to do it, and then resistance comes up in your face and says things like, "Who do you think you are?" and "You're not a real writer," and "You don't know what you're doing," and "You should just go back to your day job." Well, those are all the things that the imposter complex says to you. So
Yes.
I think that his definition of resistance, we could call it ego. Your ego wants you to be who you've always been because your ego's job is to keep you physically safe, not
Mhm.
necessarily spiritually or emotionally safe, but
Yeah.
at least physically safe. So it wants you. It doesn't want you to write that new book. It doesn't want you to double your fees because that's an unknown. It doesn't know what's going to come when you do that because it hasn't seen it before. The
Mhm.
ego can only see the past and the very right now moment.
Mhm.
So you could call it ego, call it resistance, call it the imposter complex. Um, I just find these are all helpful frameworks so that then when it pops up, you can recognize it. So, another quick
Yeah.
example, when I first started taking personal development courses almost 10 years ago, I remember sitting in this seminar and we're all there and we're all doing the work and it was long days. And I started getting really sleepy. And it
Mhm.
wasn't just around lunchtime, it was at certain times of the day.
Mhm.
But I knew what was happening because I'd been a meditator for already about 3 or 4 years at that point, and knew about how when your brain is reorganizing at a new level, you encounter resistance, which could look like falling asleep, could look like getting angry, it could look like a lot of different things, procrastination, distraction. So when I was in that personal development course, I had a slight advantage to the others in the room because I knew when I was falling asleep, oh, time to really wake up. My brain is taking in too much. My ego or my self-image can't process all this as the person I've been. I've got to become a new person.
Mhm.
So I'm falling asleep. Very
Mhm.
similar to Imposter Complex, where you're about to write that new book or double your fees or make your first Facebook Live
Mhm.
and you start getting tired or you start feeling really overwhelmed or how the heck does Facebook Live even work anyways and who's even going to watch it and all of that is just classic Imposter Complex.
Gotcha. Would you say that imposter complex is a string of beliefs that are just all tied together like a knot, and it's just super hard to find where's the root? Or do you think that, or is it that imposter complex is that there are just a series of beliefs that each of them needs to be dealt with one by one, and they're together, but they're kind of independent.
Mm. Yeah, more that one, and
Okay.
that's a perfect segue, as if you set me up for it, but I don't think you know about
No, I
or
didn't
have you
know at all.
have you heard me talk about the 8 pillars of the imposter complex?
I have heard you mention it, but
Okay,
I don't
yeah,
know if I heard you speak about all 8 yet.
yeah.
So
So in that way, it's more, and I'll share all 8 in just a moment, but it's more like the second one where there are specific, I believe, there are specific entry points to dismantling the imposter complex. A little bit like if you're going to take apart a piece of machinery, you
mhm,
probably have to start with certain screws or gaskets first before you do the rest.
mm,
Doesn't mean the other ones aren't important, but it just means that sometimes there are certain screws that you've got to unscrew first. So
yeah.
in the same way, I found a tendency, it's not for sure, but it's a tendency that it goes in this order. So I even wrote it out in a little mini story. It's like a one paragraph story that I can share.
Yay, go
So
ahead.
yeah, so we'll give it a name. So this is Jane. So Jane started procrastinating. That's number one. And it led to feeling really overwhelmed.
Mm,
That's the second one. And now that's led to her inner critic, that's the third one, kicking her ass with self judgment and criticism thoughts, self doubt. And then she developed full on imposter complex. And that's number five.
mm,
Fantastic. Not. And so she started playing small, which is number six, in order to stay safe. And also, she started not really owning her expertise. That's number, oh, sorry, that's number six.
mm.
And then she gave in to people pleasing and overgiving, which is number seven, thinking that it would help, but it didn't. And finally, she developed crappy boundaries, which is the eighth pillar, and realized that she lost a part of herself along the way.
I love that. you not only do you know your pillars, but you put it in a story format, so we all can understand the context of each pillar, but we see how they all relate to each other
Hmm.
and how it eventually may end up with a certain result or with just in a certain direction. So you gave it a result, a direction, context, individual context. When I mean context, I mean individually and a cluster. So I love that, Will. I love the way you put it together. See, this is why I have people on here to talk about their
Writer loves
expertise.
my story. Yay!
I love your story. I definitely think that your story, and when you're telling your story, the story that you created to explain the pillars, I was thinking about how I've gone through that. Definitely, I've seen my friends go through that. I feel like it's pretty universal, really. I don't. I mean, I personally don't know anyone who hasn't gone through that. Like
Mhm.
whether like it's just the first couple or all 8 of them. Like I feel like we've all gone through the entire way or just at least the first few. So so Will, is there when you meet somebody and when you okay, let me figure out how to word this. When you meet somebody, do you kind of start thinking about which pillars they've hit or where they're at when you meet somebody for the first time who is inquiring about your services, or is it that you just listen to them and then you allow them to figure out where they're at?
Yeah, great question. I tend to come from, instead of it being cookie cutter and trying to fit people into each pillar, if I'm sitting with someone on Zoom, I'll just go with how I've always worked, which is intuitively I'll look at what's the belief that is in the way.
Mhm.
So they want to get over there to where life is better, but currently they're here where life is not as good. And there's
Mhm.
something in the way. There's a fence, there's a block, there's a rock, there's a something. So I just go right for that. I'm not looking to fit them into one of these. But where these are really helpful is if someone messages me, or if I get into conversation with someone online, or if someone's beginning to inquire about my services, or they fill out an application form, then I
Mhm.
can say, "Oh, it sounds like you're really at the in these first stages, procrastination and overwhelm. You
Mhm.
probably are wanting to look at a group program of mine." Or if they're dealing more with, playing small, not owning their expertise, they're
Mhm.
probably farther along in their business journey. They're in action every day. They've got some systems in place. They've got a bit of a handle on their inner critic, and now they're trying to move out into the world with an offer or a book or a something. So that tells me that maybe it's more imposter complex, that they're not feeling as confident about their services as they could, or they're playing small. They're going for small podcasts, but they could be going for the big times, but they're
Mhm.
not yet. So it helps me direct people in that way. But if someone's right in front of me, I go with just what's coming up in that person's energy.
Gotcha. So it helps you to figure out what solutions work best for them with what is in your toolkit then.
Yeah, and it's also helpful in terms of marketing to know which kind of, because we all have, I believe, in marketing different segments. There's the lower rung, not in terms of their worth as a person, but just in terms of how much they might be ready to spend
Mhm.
with
Mhm.
my business right now. So that would be procrastination overwhelm. That's a group program, so that I can properly serve those people instead of trying to push them into one-on-one sessions that they're not ready for, or that's not a good fit, or maybe someone else they should be working with instead. So it's good for filtering in that way as well at the level of service or one-on-one work that I'll be doing with someone.
Yeah, yeah, and that totally makes sense because if someone's in the wrong program, then it's not going to work out for either one of you. And then if they are not understanding what you're saying because they're at a different place than what the solution is prepared for, then it's gonna be weird. It's gonna throw off the mojo. So
Mhm.
I completely agree with that, and I love that you do that because I mean I made the mistake when I first started business to just accept anyone, and I didn't listen to my gut as to okay, this person's not ready for me or this person is ready for me, but they actually need this, not this. Um, I think once I had to fire a client, I realized
Mm.
nope. we're gonna need to have to figure out who goes into what buckets, and if they fall out of my bucket, who do I send them to? So
Mhm.
it's one thing to, you know, try to take on a client that is not a right fit, or giving them solution that they think is right, but you don't think is right. It's one thing that that scenario happened. Another thing, it's they they think they need you, but they don't actually need you. They need someone else first before they come to you. And
Yeah.
it just gets messy. And nobody needs that. Nobody needs that. And then when they are your ideal client, you definitely want to do your best to serve them and help them because they came to you because they're in pain. So from what I can tell, well, you're doing what you're doing what you're supposed to do in order to help address their pain the way they need to be addressed. So I think that's a very amazing trait of yours, and I think that it's. I wish more people would follow that suit. So I'm hoping that when people watch this, they're like, "Ah, I should think about this."
Yeah.
Yes,
Well, and
please differentiate.
a
Yeah.
quick here's an idea for those who are a tool, an energy tool that you can use to help dismantle imposter complex. If you're a service provider, coach, healer, anything like that, is exactly what we're talking about, because you could be allowing people into your practice or into your business that are not a good fit. And then
Mm,
when they don't get great results, the imposter complex kicks in, the self-doubt, and says, you don't know what you're doing. You must not be a very good coach. That's probably not true. What's probably true is that you have your self-image needs some adjusting, or more likely people pleasing and overgiving. You're trying to help everyone, and so you accepted the wrong person into your business, and it's
mm,
just reinforcing this belief that you're not very good at what you do. If when you shift that a little bit, you will not need so much self-care, because you're going to be working with awesome people that are really a good fit, and they say amazing things about you. So
mm,
if you notice this happening where you're not having amazing client experiences, you're probably stuck in number 7, which is the people pleasing, the over giving, trying to help everybody. And when you
mm,
identify that and shift that, everything else cascades down through. So there's an energy tool. It's not even a belief clearing for everyone. It's just a business structure. If you change that,
mm.
and yeah, that will change a lot.
I love that. I love that. Well, thank you so much for sharing that energy tool, because I think we all need that. I think we all need that, quite simply. And so I got to wrap things up, but how can people find you?
Yeah, the best way right now is I offer a free session. So it's a free 15 to 30-minute session. It's called the Align with Ease Energy Clearing Session. And you can
Mm,
find that at myspiritualclarity.com
mm,
/align with ease.
mm,
And I'd love to, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're a healer or a coach, and some artists, I'd love to speak with you. You'll know as you go through the application form if it's a good fit for you. And there's a video as well, so that we can make sure it's a good fit. And I've got a YouTube channel with lots of videos about the imposter complex and the healer's helper's paradox, which is that people pleasing and overgiving. So those are
mhm.
2 awesome ways to connect.
Awesome, sweet. And on your YouTube channel, do they search under My Spiritual Clarity also, or
Uh,
what's
I,
your
I
channel?
I don't have 100 subscribers yet, so it won't come up. They'd have to look for Wil Carlos, I think. So
Gotcha.
1 Carlos.
Gotcha. Okay. Okay. Sounds good. Okay. So usually just go to your website, and then you should be all set up there. So thank you so much.
myspiritualclarity.com.
My
Yeah,
spiritual clarity. Thank you. And thank you so much, Will, for being here. This has been a lovely conversation. And I know that the viewers will be getting a lot from this. And thank you so much for tuning into the Language of series. Please tune back for more episodes by experts like Will, or other industries. So talk to you later.
bye.
Bye.